In a small town, nestled in the heart of America, the sun cast a warm glow over the streets, illuminating the faces of its residents as they went about their daily routines. The year was 1944, and the world was engulfed in the turmoil of World War II. Yet, amidst the shadows of conflict, life continued, albeit with an undercurrent of uncertainty that gripped the hearts of many. Evelyn Carter, a spirited young woman in her mid-20s, was one such soul. Working as a nurse at the local hospital, she was known for her compassionate nature and unwavering dedication to her patients. Each day began with the soft chime of the clock, its sound echoing through the sterile halls of the hospital. The scent of antiseptic mingled with the faint aroma of coffee, a small comfort in a place often filled with despair. As Evelyn donned her crisp white uniform, she glanced at the small photo pinned to her lapel, a picture of her brother, Samuel, who was serving overseas. His youthful face radiated a mixture of determination and hope, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that loomed over their family. With every shift, Evelyn carried the weight of her brother's absence, her heart heavy with worry for his safety. She often found herself daydreaming about the life they had shared before the war, the laughter that filled their home, and the promises of a future untainted by conflict. Before we start, I'd love to ask for your support. Subscribing helps me keep creating and sharing these stories with you. The hospital was a constant whirlwind of activity, with nurses and doctors rushing to attend to the wounded soldiers arriving from the front lines. Each patient brought with them a story, a piece of the war that Evelyn could only imagine. She moved with purpose, tending to their needs, her heart aching for the sacrifices they had made. The sound of distant sirens and the echoes of hurried footsteps became a backdrop to her daily life, a reminder of the chaos that lay beyond the hospital walls. One afternoon, as she sat beside a soldier recovering from surgery, Evelyn listened intently to his tales of bravery and camaraderie. His eyes sparkled with a mix of pride and pain as he recounted the harrowing moments of battle. "You know, Miss Carter," he said, his voice hoarse but filled with warmth, "it's the thought of home that keeps us going. The faces of loved ones, the dreams we hold on to, they're what make it all worth it." Evelyn nodded, her heart swelling with empathy. She understood the longing for home, the desire to return to the safety of familiar arms. In her mind, she often envisioned the life she had shared with Thomas Bennett, a soldier she had met just before the war erupted. Their romance had blossomed in stolen moments, filled with laughter, whispered promises, and the sweet taste of love. Thomas was everything she had ever dreamed of, brave, kind, and deeply passionate about his beliefs. Their connection had been forged in the fires of uncertainty, and now, as she cared for the wounded, the memories of their time together flooded her thoughts. Thomas was stationed in Europe, fighting in a war that felt both distant and all-consuming. Through letters, he had shared his hopes and fears, painting vivid pictures of life on the front lines. His words wrapped around her like a warm embrace, providing solace in the darkest of times. "I think of you every day, Evelyn," he had written in one of his letters. "Your laughter is the melody that keeps me going. I promise to return to you no matter what." As Evelyn tended to her patients, she often found herself lost in thoughts of Thomas. She could picture him now, standing tall in his uniform, his blue eyes sparkling with determination. The way he had held her hand, the warmth of his touch, and the way he had promised her a future together felt like a lifeline in the midst of chaos. The uncertainty of the war loomed over her, but she clung to the hope that they would be reunited one day. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the hospital, Evelyn returned home to find a letter waiting for her. Her heart raced as she recognized Thomas's handwriting, the familiar loops and curves that had become a source of comfort. She settled into her favorite chair, the soft fabric enveloping her as she unfolded the letter, her hands trembling with anticipation. "Dearest Evelyn," it began, "I write to you from a place far from home, where the skies are often gray and the air is thick with uncertainty. Each day brings new challenges, but it is your love that fuels my spirit.
I find solace in the thought of returning to you, to the life we dreamt of together." As she read on, tears welled in her eyes. Thomas spoke of the camaraderie among the soldiers, the laughter they shared even in the darkest moments, and the dreams they held onto like fragile treasures. But there was an undercurrent of fear in his words, a vulnerability that tugged at her heart.
"I cannot help but think of the dangers that lie ahead. There are days when I fear I may not return, but I refuse to let that thought linger. You are my beacon, Evelyn. You are my reason to fight." Evelyn pressed the letter to her chest, feeling the weight of his words settle deep within her. She could almost hear his voice, the warmth of his laughter echoing in her mind. "Promise me you'll take care of yourself," she whispered into the silence, her heart aching with longing. "I'll be waiting for you, Thomas, always." Days turned into weeks, and the letters became a lifeline for Evelyn. Each one brought a mixture of joy and anxiety as she waited for news of Thomas's well-being. She found herself counting the days, her heart racing at the thought of his return. But with every passing moment, the war continued to rage on, and the uncertainty of his fate weighed heavily on her soul. One fateful morning, the hospital received a surge of patients, soldiers wounded in a recent battle. Evelyn moved swiftly, her instincts kicking in as she worked alongside her fellow nurses. The atmosphere was tense, filled with the sounds of moans and the frantic calls of doctors. She tended to each soldier with care, her heart breaking as she witnessed the toll of war etched on their faces. In the midst of the chaos, a familiar name echoed through the hospital halls: Thomas Bennett. The air grew thick with dread as Evelyn's heart sank. She rushed to find the source of the commotion, her mind racing with fear. The sight that greeted her was nothing short of devastating. Thomas lay on a stretcher, his face pale and his body battered. The world around her faded as she rushed to his side, her heart pounding in her chest. "Thomas," she whispered, her voice trembling as she reached for his hand. "I'm here. I'm right here." He opened his eyes, and for a moment the chaos around them melted away. The warmth of her touch ignited a flicker of recognition, a spark of love that transcended the horrors of war. "Evelyn," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't think I'd see you again." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she squeezed his hand, the reality of his injuries crashing over her like a wave. The hospital staff worked tirelessly around them, but in that moment it was just the two of them, bound by a love that refused to be extinguished. As the days passed, Thomas fought to recover. Evelyn remained by his side, her unwavering support a testament to their love. She read to him from books, shared stories of their life together, and filled the room with laughter, determined to lift his spirits. But the reality of war loomed over them, a constant reminder of the fragility of life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow through the hospital window, Thomas took a deep breath, his gaze fixed on Evelyn. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice steady but filled with an undercurrent of emotion. "I've been given a mission. It's dangerous, and I don't know what will happen." Evelyn's heart raced, the weight of his words settling heavily upon her. "You have to promise me you'll be careful, Thomas. You can't leave me again," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "We have a future to fight for." He nodded, his expression resolute. "I promise, Evelyn. I will do everything in my power to return to you. You are my heart, my home." They shared a lingering kiss, a moment that felt both like a goodbye and a promise, a connection forged in the fires of uncertainty. As the day of his mission approached, Thomas prepared himself mentally, writing letters to those he loved, pouring his heart into each word. He crafted a message for Evelyn, a final testament to their love, and inscribed it on the inside of his helmet, a symbol of his devotion. "No matter what happens, know that I love you," he had written, a declaration that echoed in his mind. The day arrived, and the atmosphere was charged with tension.
Evelyn stood at the hospital entrance, her heart heavy with dread as she watched Thomas prepare to leave. The sight of him in uniform, ready to face the unknown, ignited a fierce determination within her. "You'll come back to me," she whispered, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. "You have to." "I will," he promised, his eyes filled with a mixture of love and uncertainty. "I'll carry you with me, always." With one last kiss, he turned to join his fellow soldiers, leaving Evelyn standing at the threshold, her heart a mix of hope and fear. Days turned into weeks, and the silence that followed Thomas's departure was deafening. Evelyn clung to the letters he had written, rereading them like sacred texts, searching for solace in his words. But as time passed, the uncertainty grew, and the ache of his absence became a constant companion. Then, one fateful afternoon, the news arrived. A telegram, delivered with a sense of urgency that sent shivers down her spine. Her hands trembled as she opened the envelope, her heart racing as she read the words that would change her life forever. Thomas Bennett reported missing in action. The world around her blurred as the weight of those words crashed over her like a tidal wave. Evelyn sank to the floor, the letter slipping from her fingers as she struggled to comprehend the reality of it all. The hope that had sustained her began to unravel, replaced by a profound sense of loss. She clutched the photo of Thomas, the warmth of his smile now a haunting memory. The war had taken so much, and now it threatened to take the one thing she held most dear. In the days that followed, Evelyn searched for answers, her heart aching with the need to know what had happened to Thomas. She reached out to the military, desperate for information, but the responses were vague, filled with bureaucratic language that offered little comfort. She found herself wandering the hospital halls, her heart heavy with grief, as she tended to the wounded soldiers, each one a reminder of the love she had lost. As the years passed, the pain of Thomas's absence never fully dissipated. Evelyn continued her work as a nurse, pouring her heart into caring for those who had fought and sacrificed. But the ghost of Thomas lingered, a constant reminder of the love that had once filled her life with light. She often found herself lost in memories, replaying their moments together like a cherished film, each frame etched into her heart. Time moved on, and the world began to heal, but for Evelyn, the scars of war remained. She learned to navigate life without him, but the ache of loss never truly faded. She became a widow long before her time, her heart forever tied to a soldier who had promised to return, but never did. 30 years later, the world had changed, but the memories of that time still echoed in her heart. Evelyn now worked at the local historical society, dedicated to preserving the stories of those who had served. The walls of the society were adorned with photographs, letters, and artifacts, each telling a tale of bravery, love, and sacrifice. It was a labor of love, a way for her to honor Thomas and the countless others who had given everything. One day, while sorting through old boxes of artifacts, Evelyn stumbled upon a weathered helmet, its surface marked by the passage of time. As she examined it, a sense of familiarity washed over her. Her heart raced as she noticed a faint inscription inside, the letters barely legible but unmistakable. "Evelyn, my love, always." The words resonated deep within her, igniting a spark of hope that had long been buried. The realization that this helmet belonged to Thomas sent her spiraling back into the past, igniting memories of their love and the unanswered questions that had haunted her for decades. With renewed determination, she embarked on a journey to uncover the truth about Thomas's fate. She reached out to historians, veterans, and families affected by the war, piecing together the fragments of his story. Each interaction deepened her understanding of resilience and the impact of war on personal lives. She listened to tales of bravery and loss, finding solace in the shared experiences of others. As she delved deeper into the past, Evelyn discovered not only the truth about Thomas, but also the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity.
Her search led her to the very battleground where Thomas had fought, a place filled with echoes of history and the ghosts of those who had come before. Standing amidst the remnants of war, Evelyn felt a connection to Thomas that transcended time and space. She closed her eyes, imagining him by her side, his laughter ringing in her ears. As she pieced together the details surrounding Thomas's disappearance, the emotional weight of her discoveries began to build. She learned about the bravery he had displayed during his last mission, the sacrifices made by those who fought alongside him. Each revelation brought her closer to closure, allowing her to honor his memory while embracing her own life. In that moment of catharsis, Evelyn realized that love does not fade with time. It endures, transforming and evolving, much like the world around her. She would carry Thomas with her always, a part of her heart forever intertwined with his. As she stood in the quiet of that sacred space, she felt a sense of peace wash over her, a knowing that love transcends even the darkest of times. With a bittersweet smile, Evelyn made the decision to share Thomas's story with the world, ensuring that his legacy would live on. She would tell the tale of a soldier, a lover, and a man deeply in love, a reminder of the sacrifices made in the name of love and the enduring power of hope. As she walked away from the battlefield, the sun setting on the horizon, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would honor Thomas, not just as a soldier, but as the love of her life, forever etched in her heart. Evelyn Carter stood at the edge of the battlefield, her heart heavy with the weight of the past. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the remnants of war, a stark contrast to the memories swirling in her mind. Each step she took felt like a pilgrimage, a journey back to the love that had defined her youth and shaped her very existence. The helmet, now cradled in her arms, was more than just an artifact. It was a bridge to Thomas, a connection that had survived the ravages of time. As she walked among the remnants of what had once been a fierce battleground, she could almost hear the distant echoes of laughter and camaraderie, the shouts of soldiers bravely facing their fears. But it was Thomas's voice she longed to hear the most, the way he would tease her with a smile, the warmth of his presence that had once made the world feel safe. Now, that world was full of ghosts, memories of those who had fought and fallen, and of the love that had been lost. Evelyn found herself drawn to a small clearing, surrounded by trees that stood like sentinels, guarding the stories of those who had passed through. She closed her eyes, allowing the sounds of nature to wash over her, the rustle of leaves, the gentle whisper of the wind. In this sacred space, she could almost feel Thomas beside her, his laughter mingling with the breeze. "Thomas," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "I've come to find you." The search had consumed her for weeks. Each conversation with veterans and historians had painted a clearer picture of the man she had loved. She learned about his bravery, his unwavering spirit, and the friendships he had forged in the trenches. But with each revelation came the haunting knowledge of his absence, a void that could never be filled. Determined to honor his memory, Evelyn had begun documenting her findings, poring over letters and photographs, piecing together the fragments of Thomas's life. She had started a blog, sharing his story with others who had experienced loss, hoping to connect with those who understood the pain of love interrupted by war. The responses had been overwhelming, people from all walks of life reaching out, sharing their own stories of love and sacrifice. It was a reminder that, while her story was uniquely hers, it was also part of a larger tapestry woven from the threads of countless lives touched by the war. One afternoon, as she sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of papers and photographs, a letter arrived. The envelope was worn and yellowed with age, the handwriting unmistakably masculine. Her heart raced as she tore it open, recognizing Thomas's cursive flowing across the page. "Dear Evelyn," it began, and her breath caught in her throat. The letter was dated just weeks before his last mission. He spoke of the uncertainty of war, the fear that gripped him, and the hope that one day they would be reunited.
"I carry you with me, always," he wrote, and tears streamed down her cheeks as she imagined him sitting in a muddy trench, penning these words with trembling hands. Evelyn could feel the weight of his love enveloping her, a warmth that transcended the years. She read the letter over and over, absorbing every word, every promise. It was a lifeline, a reminder that love had not been extinguished, even in the face of despair. Days turned into weeks as she continued her search, each day revealing more about Thomas's last moments. She learned of the mission that had taken him away from her, the bravery of the men who had fought alongside him, and the harrowing circumstances that led to his disappearance. There was a bittersweet comfort in knowing that he had not faced his fate alone, that he had been surrounded by camaraderie and courage. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a soft glow over her living room, Evelyn sat down to write. She poured her heart into the page, sharing her journey, her grief, and the love that had endured despite the passage of time. She wrote about the helmet, the message etched inside, and how it had brought her back to the man she had loved with all her heart. "I will share your story with the world, Thomas," she wrote, her pen moving with determination. "You will not be forgotten. Your bravery, your love, and the sacrifices you made will shine brightly in the hearts of those who hear it." As she sealed the letter, a sense of peace washed over her. She had found her purpose in the midst of loss. The act of sharing Thomas's story felt like a tribute, a way to ensure that his memory lived on. Evelyn began organizing a local event to honor veterans and their families, a gathering where stories could be shared and connections forged.
She reached out to local historians, inviting them to speak about the impact of the war on the community. The response was overwhelming, and soon the event took on a life of its own. On the day of the event, the community center buzzed with energy. Tables were adorned with photographs and artifacts, each telling a story of its own. Evelyn felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she prepared to share Thomas's story. She had invited others to share their experiences, and the room was filled with a sense of camaraderie, a reminder that they were all bound by the threads of love and loss. As she stood at the podium, the room fell silent. The faces before her were a tapestry of emotions, curiosity, empathy, and understanding. She took a deep breath, her heart racing as she began to speak. "Thank you all for being here today," she started, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. "Today we gather not just to remember those who fought for our freedom, but to honor the love that endured through the darkest of times." Evelyn shared the story of her and Thomas's love, the stolen moments they had shared before the war, and the dreams they had built together. She spoke of the helmet, of the message that had found its way back to her after 30 years, and the journey she had undertaken to uncover the truth of his fate. As her words flowed, she could see the impact they had on the audience. Tears glistened in the eyes of some, while others nodded in understanding. She felt a connection with each person in the room, a shared understanding of love's resilience in the face of loss. When she finished, a wave of applause washed over her, and she felt a warmth spread through her chest. The stories that followed were equally poignant, each person sharing their own experiences of love, loss, and the sacrifices made during the war. It was a powerful reminder that they were not alone in their grief, that love remained a beacon of hope even in the darkest of times. After the event, as people mingled and shared their stories, Evelyn felt a sense of fulfillment that she had never experienced before. The connections forged that day were a testament to the enduring power of love and the importance of remembering those who had sacrificed everything. As she stood by a table adorned with photographs of soldiers, a man approached her. He was older, with silver hair and kind eyes that held a depth of understanding. "I couldn't help but be moved by your story," he said softly. "My brother fought in the same battalion as your Thomas. I didn't know him personally, but I've heard tales of his bravery." Evelyn felt her heart swell. "Thank you for sharing that with me," she replied, her voice thick with emotion. "It means so much to know that he is remembered." They talked for a while, sharing memories of loved ones lost, and the impact of the war on their lives. Evelyn felt a sense of camaraderie with this stranger, a bond forged through shared experiences of love and loss. As the evening drew to a close, Evelyn felt a renewed sense of purpose. She had not only honored Thomas's memory, but had also created a space for others to share their stories, to find healing in the collective experience of love and sacrifice. In the days that followed, Evelyn continued to write, documenting her journey and the stories of others she had met. She felt a sense of responsibility to ensure that the memories of those who had fought were preserved, that their sacrifices would not be forgotten. Her blog gained traction, reaching people far and wide, igniting conversations about love and loss during wartime. Letters poured in from strangers who had been touched by her words, each one a reminder that love transcends time and space. One day, as she sat at her desk, a letter arrived that would change everything. It was from a historian who had been researching Thomas's battalion. The letter contained details about the mission that had claimed Thomas's life and the heroic actions he had taken to save his comrades. Evelyn's heart raced as she read the letter, her eyes widening with each revelation. Thomas had not only fought bravely, but had also saved the lives of several men before he was reported missing. The historian offered to help her organize a memorial in his honor, a tribute to the sacrifices made by Thomas and his fellow soldiers. Tears streamed down Evelyn's face as she realized the depth of Thomas's bravery. She felt a mix of pride and sorrow, knowing that he had given everything for the sake of others. It was a bittersweet revelation, a reminder that love and sacrifice often walk hand in hand. With renewed determination, Evelyn set to work organizing the memorial. She reached out to veterans, families, and historians, inviting them to share their stories and honor the legacy of those who had served. The event would be a celebration of life, love, and the indomitable spirit of those who had faced the horrors of war. On the day of the memorial, the sun shone brightly, illuminating the faces of those gathered in the park. Evelyn stood at the front, her heart swelling with pride as she looked out at the crowd. Each person present was a testament to the enduring power of love and the sacrifices made in its name. As the ceremony began, Evelyn shared Thomas's story once more, recounting his bravery and the love that had never faded. The air was thick with emotion as she spoke, her words resonating deeply with those who had gathered. When the time came to unveil the memorial, a hush fell over the crowd. The monument stood tall, a tribute to the soldiers who had fought valiantly and the love that had endured through the years. Evelyn stepped forward, her heart racing as she placed her hand on the cool stone, feeling the weight of history pressing down upon her. "Today, we honor not just the soldiers, but the love that binds us all," she said, her voice steady. "Thomas may be gone, but his spirit lives on in each of us. Let us remember the sacrifices made for love, for freedom, and for the hope that one day we may live in a world without war." As the crowd erupted in applause, Evelyn felt a sense of closure wash over her. She had honored Thomas's memory in a way that felt true to their love. The story shared that day would ripple through time, reminding others of the sacrifices made in the name of love. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn continued to share Thomas's story, her blog becoming a beacon of hope for those navigating their own journeys of love and loss. She received messages from people around the world, each one a reminder that love transcends boundaries and time. As she reflected on her journey, Evelyn knew that while the scars of war would never fully heal, the love she shared with Thomas would forever remain a part of her. She had found strength in vulnerability, resilience in grief, and purpose in honoring the memory of the man who had captured her heart. With each passing day, Evelyn carried Thomas with her, a reminder that love is a force that can withstand even the darkest of times. And as she continued to share their story, she felt a sense of peace, knowing that love in all its forms would endure, an everlasting testament to the power of the human spirit.